2022 was a honestly terrible year for gaming. Outside of the, I guess we'll call it the big three of Elden Ring, Ragnarok, and Xenoblade Chronicles 3, no game really stood out or impressed me. Even looking at the games that came out before 2022 that I played this year, there really wasn't a lot there. This was honestly a very difficult list for me to make, because I just genuinely didn't have that many games that I played this year that stuck with me. But it's the end of the year. List videos are what people want. And if I do one thing, it's give the people what they want. Here you go, my top 10 games of the year, 5 that released in 2022, and 5 that came out before then, but I finally played them in 2022. And 5 that came out before, but I played them for the first time in 2022. And of course, remember that you have to go into the comments to defend your favorite game's honor. Tell me why certain games should be higher or lower on the list. Of course, you have to like the video and subscribe. You have to reward my bravery for putting the list in the way that I put it. I'm so brave, guys. So stunning and brave. This is a stunning, brave list. And also, you can't comment if you don't like and subscribe. That's a new YouTube rule. I've always loved the Souls-like games. I actually bought Demon's Souls back when it first came out on the PlayStation 3. I initially was not too keen on the PS5 remake. Yes, it looked amazing graphically, but the Souls games have evolved so much over the years. How could this one possibly hold up when they weren't changing it? They were trying to keep it as mechanically the same as possible. Short answer though, it did hold up. These games truly are timeless. Yeah, it might be a little more clunky than the later Souls games, but it still has the magic and sure, the nostalgia at its core. That combat is still solid. The gameplay is still solid. I replayed this game in preparation for Elden Ring, which we will talk about later, and I just loved it. It was so wonderful to go back and experience this game for really what felt like the first time again. Being able to play it after all the other Souls games just brought such a deeper appreciation, not just for Demon's Souls, but also for the entire series and genre that this game has created. The Demon's Souls remake on PS5 is a must-play for fans on the series, whether it was one that you missed because it was before your time, or if you have played it and love it. I think the visual updates alone make it worth your while. I've always loved rhythm games. It genuinely started with DDR back at the local arcade in middle school, but it really blossomed into love with Guitar Hero. That grew, of course, with Rock Band. I still have an original Xbox 360 with Ion drums so that I can play Rock Band 3. I also love shooting games, FPS games, and I love metal. So Metal Hellsinger really is the perfect game for someone like me. There's just something so incredibly satisfying about blowing a demon's head off right on the beat of a metal song. The three genres at play here combine perfectly together and are executed very well. Unlike a game like Bullets Per Minute, this one technically has a story too, which it turns out is something I need in a game because I played this a lot longer than I played Bullets Per Minute. The story is short, but of course, like any rhythm game, it is infinitely replayable as you chase a higher score or perfection on the beats and the notes. I did find the gunplay itself a little clunky at times. There can be too much going on screen, and there's even a couple instances where I just died because I had no idea that I was even taking damage. The overall package is great, music is great, gunplay pretty good, and the rhythm, of course, elevates it. Overall, the game is definitely worth checking out. I would have never guessed this at the start of the year, but 2022 ended up being the year of Resident Evil for me. I don't know if it was the excitement of 8 coming out. I just felt it was time for me to really experience these games. I had played Resident Evil 4 back when it first came out on the GameCube, and then 5 when that first came out on the Xbox 360. And I had played the remake of 2 about a year or two ago, but I had held off on the rest of the series because I heard like the remake of 3 was less good than 2. I wasn't really a fan of the original style of game, so I wasn't too interested in the original Resident Evil remake. I played the demo for 7, and it just scared me. I'm a little scaredy cat, and I didn't want to play it. For whatever reason, though, I threw away all these reservations and picked up Resident Evil Remake 3, played through it, loved it, played through Resident Evil, loved it, and even picked up and played Resident Evil 7, and I'm proud to say I only got scared a couple of times. Look at me now, Dad. After playing all 3 of these games, I came to deeply appreciate the Resident Evil franchise. I really love how each game keeps the core mechanics of the series there, but iterates and evolves on them across entries in the series. All 3 of these games are different and unique, but trying to pick just one to put on this list didn't feel right, and I decided to instead lump them into this single entry. All of the games have this balance of managing resources, health, storage space, while also keeping track of a number of different puzzles that are ongoing. And this all leads to such a satisfying gameplay loop that is also tense and rewarding. I think it's worth playing through all of these games. The Resident Evil series is worth experiencing. I don't know, there's something so satisfying about that sort of what I call progressive unlocking that these games have. Unfortunately, I did not get to 8 by the time of this recording, but don't be surprised if you see it on next year's list. Sports games have always been tricky for me to enjoy as a genre. I really like playing the game, but I also like the idea of managing a franchise, playing season after season and having that kind of history of your gameplay experience. Unfortunately, with most sports games, you can't really do that without devoting your life to that game. A season could take hours and hours to get through, and then you gotta do it all again. It's just never feasible. I always get bored and move on. Luckily, exactly what I was looking for in a sports game was delivered to me earlier this year on the Nintendo Switch, and that's Retro Bowl. What started as an awesome little phone game got ported over perfectly to the Switch and felt right at home on the handheld console. You can play through a game in like 4 minutes. You only control your team on offense. Between games, you earn credits that you can use to upgrade your facilities, sign new staff, trade players. And this is great. You can complete a season in around 2 hours, and the whole point of the game, really, is to build your team up from this zero to hero kind of story. You start as the coach of the worst team in the league, which is a random team in the league that you get assigned to. But year after year, you can build that team up and eventually go and win the Retro Bowl. The game is so addicting and is exactly what I'm looking for in a sports game. So much so that this game hit my top 3 games for playtime on the Switch this year, which is crazy when you think about it because I played a couple other games for like 80 plus hours. This game brings with it dynamically scaling difficulty, as well as that opportunity to take coaching positions at other teams, which essentially has you starting over from scratch with that team. This game will keep you engaged for a long time. I think I played 30 plus seasons of it before I put it down. For $5 especially, it's hard to go wrong with what feels like such a complete experience. Tome is a game I honestly never thought I would even play. I remember seeing it, I think, in a Nintendo Direct, and just thinking, that is so stupid. But I got it in, I think, a humble monthly bundle or something, and figured, I have a Steam Deck now, and I'll just play it. It seems like a game that I can play on the couch with no sound while I watch TV. Little did I know that I would fall in love with this game. I mean, it's a black and white game where the whole point of the game is to run around and just take pictures of stuff. It sounds awful. I know I make YouTube videos, but I am not like a picture person. I don't like Instagram. I don't even know how to use mine. I don't like taking pictures. I don't go out with people or go to a concert or a place and think like, I need to take a picture and post it somewhere so that people can see it. Like, the whole idea of this game sounded so not me, so stupid, so awful, so dumb. But I played it, and the game has such a charm to it. I couldn't stop. I couldn't put it down. I wanted to take pictures of everything. It awoke something within me. Through the course of the game, you will travel to a number of unique areas, and in each area there's just people, and the people have requests for you. They want to see a picture of something. That's it. That's the game. You go find those things, snap a picture, and bring it back to them. Most of these quests, I guess, are nothing more than hidden object. Find this thing that they're looking for in the area and take a picture of it. Though there were a couple that actually felt like puzzles. They had me thinking for a little bit, just running around, finding these things to take pictures of, taking pictures of them. It works. And again, I hate this. This is never something I would do in my life. I just don't. And I found this game so engaging. So I can only assume that, like more normal people who do normal people things, I think you'll like it even more than I did. So give it a shot. It may surprise you. God of War 2018 hit me like a deer in the headlights of a freight train. I almost didn't buy this game because I thought, how do you characterize Kratos? All he does is murder. That's all these games were, and now you're going to tell me there's this real story with him and his son? I wasn't interested. I picked it up on a whim and fell in love with it. One of my favorite games. And while Ragnarok doesn't have that same wow factor, how could it? It's a sequel. It continues the story that was begun in the last game and brings it to what I thought was an epic conclusion. Initially, this game was tough to get into because it does just feel so much like you're playing the last game again. It really has a lot of parallels as far as storytelling and how it sets up its narrative. And it just didn't feel like there was much new to do. Now, the game does open up, especially with the combat. Later in the game, there are some new things to do. And of course, the combat itself is tight, enjoyable. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. But at the same time, there's a lot of, especially in the first half of the game, there was a lot of that feeling of sameness to it. I think this game was really held back by also having to be released on the PS4. There's a lot of those hidden loading screens and wedging yourself through tight spaces, so that they can load the next area that I don't think would have been necessary if they just committed to the PS5. And there's definitely some things like that to get over. Luckily, the gameplay is solid, but the story and the characters are so engaging that it carries you past that. And then once the story really gets going and the narrative really picks up, you don't even notice anymore. It does start feeling better and new and different. The journey and the growth that both Kratos and Atreus go on is gripping. The cast of characters is wonderful. This game is so well acted. I loved Odin and Thor and all the other new additions, as well as Freya, Mimir, Sindri, Brock. And again, the ending, I liked it. I know some people didn't like the ending. They said it felt rushed. I don't think so. I think they really handled it well. I think they did the right thing, and I think it worked. It was epic in the textbook definition of the word. What an ending to this 2-game series. I'm so excited for what comes next. And I'll leave it at that. I don't want to spoil too much. The Yakuza games are really almost impossible to describe. Narratively, you have this intense crime drama filled with betrayal, violence, death, yelling, stern talking. But then between the story beats, you have this open world where you can play baseball, race RC cars, or play essentially Pokemon against literal children. It's an absurd clash of style and emotion. It just works. I played Yakuza Kiwami, which is a remake of the first game, and so it does show like the side content, and I've read this, that it's not as greatly detailed or in-depth, and that later entries do expand and improve on this. which I do believe because there were a couple side stories in Zero that were memorable, whereas I didn't really run into those in Kiwami. That doesn't mean that this game isn't still a blast to play through. It has a rich, detailed, and living world that you can explore, and the story is just so good. Intrigue, the different characters, the plot lines, the threads, and they all come together in a really nice way. The story is really well done and very gripping to play through. Elden Ring is the gamest game to ever game in the history of gaming. Further refining the combat of the Dark Souls games, Elden Ring is truly a gamer's paradise. There is such a breadth of content in not just the world, but the type of characters that you can create, but also the size of the world. It's incomprehensible how large this game is. The map is huge. Each area that you go to on the map is essentially an entire Dark Souls game, just sitting there to be explored, and there's like 50 of them. And then you realize there's a second map, and then a third map, and then kind of a third and a half map. Like it's unbelievable how they could put so much content into a single game. I played this game for 85 hours, and I still feel like I maybe experienced like a quarter of it, and I beat it. I played through got through the main stuff, but there's so much other stuff that it's just unbelievable. I don't know how they did this. It truly is astonishing. I will say, I'm not sure that the open world itself worked with the Souls formula, but I'm not sure, and also that's like a nitpick, especially considering just the sea of excellence that this game offers. And really the only other bad thing I could think to say about this game is that the ending, the last couple bosses, last couple hours of the game felt a little overtuned. It was a little hard. It was like a difficulty mountain that rises up there at the end, but just get good. And I guess this kind of does justify the open world a little bit, right? That means you just go and explore more of the game and then come back. So I don't know, maybe that does mean the open world was a good idea. I don't know. But everybody's played this game. I don't need to say more about it. It's phenomenal. I'm not sure if it's a condemnation of the year in gaming or a testament to the quality of Monster Sanctuary, but I still think about this game, and I played it in January. This was one of the first games I played in 2022, and I just fell in love with it. Mixing and matching your monsters to form the perfect debuff or buff or elemental attack or physical attack or whatever synergy that you want to make is so addicting. On top of that, you have to level each monster up so that you can fully unlock their skill trees. And on top of that, the game's also Metroidvania, and your movement abilities are gained from the monsters you collect. I thought that was a really cool idea, and yeah, maybe it needed a little better balancing since you can really unlock all the movement abilities in the first hour or two of gameplay. It's still a cool idea. The sheer depth that this game has, thanks to its large cast of monsters and their Diablo-like skill trees, all comes together to provide an incredibly satisfying gameplay loop that you just cannot put down. This is a Pokemon game for adults. Like, if you wanted Pokemon to be a real game, Monster Sanctuary. What else is there to say about Xenoblade Chronicles 3 that I didn't already say in my video review of it? Which, if you want to check out, you can click on the top of your screen right now. This game was, to me, perfection. It built upon the phenomenal foundation of its predecessors to build something even greater. Combat smooth, a joy. The side stories and characters are engaging and meaningful and feel like main game content. They don't feel like side content. And the main story itself is this mature, grand, but also personal tale of war and death and loss and what it even means to be alive and the value of life and the value of time On top of that, you have 6 main characters that all felt like realized characters. They grow and change over the course of the narrative. The story's emotional highs are so well executed with fantastic voice acting, and the soundtrack, which I still cannot believe got slighted by the Game Awards, even with Flute Guy there to fight for it. And for a Switch game, it looks incredible. Everything about this game is JRPG perfection. And more so than even Elden Ring, I simply didn't want it to end. I wanted to keep playing. It's my game of the year, and possibly my GOAT. And that's it. That's the games. Those are 10 of the games I played last year that I played. And I liked those games that I played, and so I listed them in the list of ways that I liked them. Thank you for watching. If you would like to comment, remember you have to like and subscribe, YouTube rules. And then leave a comment down below. What was your game of the year? What game do you think will be game of the year 2023? 2022's behind us. We need a new list already. Forget last year. Last year is done. Let me know in the comments down below, and I will see you all with the next video.